You've come to the right place if you're looking to create, launch, and scale a high-value online training program. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of Lifter LMS, the most powerful learning management system for WordPress. Stay to the end. I've got something special for you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. My name's Chris Badgett and I'm joined by a repeat and very special guest. Her name is Peacey. She's from slickbusiness.co. She is a shining example of an expert, somebody who really cares about their community and somebody who's built a successful training-based membership site around her expertise. Kay, welcome back on the show.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It's a total pleasure to be here with you, and I'm loving the intro. Keep it coming. I'm just going to polish myself up a little bit here. Feel the glow.
There's going to be a lot of polish here because before your story is interesting, what you've done and the decisions you've made and how you did it. We're going to get into all that, but for the listener out there who's kind of interested in course creation or membership sites, what is in your training stack? Like, what is the product suite, if you will, even if it's some free things, and then what do you call them, and what's the really quick what each one of those are?
Great. Okay, so we have sort of, to get into my world, the freest of free places is a big Facebook group called Automate Your Business with ActiveCampaign, which is hosted by me, and you will find that on Facebook. And then the next step up is I have a really, really wonderful free training course built with Lifter, of course. And that one's called Accelerated Active Campaign. And we linked that from all over the place because it is the starting point for anyone who wants to get better at Active Campaign. Doesn't matter where they're at. You want to start there, Accelerated Active Campaign. And then when you are ready to dig in and get access to me and the team and really start some lasting committed improvements, we have a membership. And this is my proudest thing, my proudest possession, my total, it's my baby, right? I've been building towards this for a long time. It's a membership for ActiveCampaign users. It's called the ActiveCampaign Academy, and you can find that on my website, which is slickbusiness.co.
That's awesome. We're going to dig into all that. One of the things I'm like a total membership site nerd, and I was looking at your site. I think it was about a month ago. I was looking at it and I was looking at your pricing table, and I wonder if you could just briefly go over the stack of what's included. Like, it's not just courses. Like what?
Yeah.
So what is inside the membership, if you will?
Okay, this is such a good question. Now, it took me a while to pin this down. This is partly why I was late coming out of the gates, really, with this membership. I wanted to do it much sooner, but I knew I needed to get the framework right so that it would work for people who are actually in businesses, in real life businesses, doing real life stuff with ActiveCampaign. So the structure we came to in the end, and we did a lot of work with beta students to figure this out, what actually works in terms of their learning. So we have courses in there. Courses, right? Everyone knows what a course is. You go, you consume it. It's pretty much meant to be done in the order of the lessons, and you can work your way through and mark complete. Great. Courses. So we have courses that explain particular features or particular themes and stuff like that. Then we have element number 2, which is resources. And the resources are complete walkthroughs, top to tail, of a whole process. Because when you automate anything or you build any tech stack, it's literally never about just one feature, one thing. How do where is this one setting? It's the strategic approach, how you make a plan, what tech you've got to play with, and then how you're going to build it and document it. It's all of those things to make a successful automated process of any sort. Okay, so the idea with the resources is that they will bring in real use cases. So say a launch webinar. It's a classic, right? Most businesses will need that at one time or another. The resources areas where we're going to put a full walkthrough. I call it nose to tail. It's like nose to tail eating. You're starting with, okay, I would like to achieve such and such process. Where do I start? You're going to go look at the resource. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is our community. And I am thrilled with our community of members. So it's a private member community where you have direct access to me and my team, and that's where you can ask. It's really ask me anything about ActiveCampaign, and I'm there. I'm all over it, and I give you detailed responses. And we're now turning it into a really rich even more resources because we have a library area in our community now. So we're stashing all the links to all the like vetted help docs, the stuff where I've been in there and I know that that help doc is actually useful. So we have a library where we drop the link to the useful stuff. And then the final element is the office hours calls. And so office hours calls, we run them twice a week, every week, which is a lot. But the reason I do them twice a week, every week is twofold. One is that often with ActiveCampaign work, you can be stuck. And being stuck is a really unpleasant place to be. And my mission is to move you forward from being stuck as quickly as possible. And getting on a call in a group with other people who are working with ActiveCampaign and with me right there to answer your exact question. So you get your few minutes, and in that time, we move you forwards and you're not stuck anymore. And they're the best part of my week. I absolutely love them. But it's also to cater for people who are scattered around the globe. We've got people all over the world in different time zones. So we run them twice a week so that everyone gets a fair crack at the whip to get to an office hours call.
Wow, that's awesome. We've got so much to dig into here. For those that maybe they don't know what ActiveCampaign is or what it is, what your niche is, can you describe like kind of who you help and what it's all about?
Sure. Sorry. So it's like we turned over 3 pages at once there. I'm sorry. I'll go back. Go back a step. Okay. So ActiveCampaign is the marketing automation platform. I
use it at Lifter LMS. Like we use it.
Loads and loads and loads of businesses use it. Typically, it's the one that people move on to when they've got fed up with one of the more limited platforms, or they've got overwhelmed by one of the more technically complicated and expensive platforms. Okay. So it's kind of it's a really strong middle market contender in email marketing automation, but it's not just about email marketing. It's automating right across your business. So it's your data storage, it's your automation, it's your emailing, it's your internal processes. It's the heart and the hub of your business when it's done right. Okay. But for small business users, particularly, wow, that is a steep learning curve when you step into that platform. It is too much. It's too much. I remember that feeling. I was completely, wildly overwhelmed by ActiveCampaign when I first looked in there. And like, literally, this is my living now. So I had a natural aptitude for this sort of thing, but I was completely overwhelmed and overfaced by it. And it took me a long time to dig around and find the right training resources and figure out what order to do them in to make any sense of it at all. And then how to strategically put stuff together so that it would actually make business things happen on autopilot. So my mission now is to make that journey so much easier and so much faster for small and medium business owners and the people who work in them, so that they can actually leverage the enormous power of ActiveCampaign to make their working life easier and their business better and their customers feel happier and sell more stuff. And that's pretty much it.
So just to put kind of a timeline on this, how long, as of this recording, have you been involved with ActiveCampaign? Like, when did you first start using it?
I think 5 years, maybe 5.5 now.
Yeah, 5.5 years. And as of this recording, how long ago did you launch your membership?
3 months.
That's awesome. So this was a journey. This is a journey. And what can you tell us about the launch of your membership? Like, how did it go?
Oh man, it was amazing. I am so glad that I did it, and I literally never ever want to have to do that again.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. So it was a long time coming for me because I was a reluctant business person in that I didn't set out to become a business owner or a world leading ActiveCampaign expert. But what happened was that I started off as an expert, and then lots of people are asking me questions, and then I became a consultant and I'm getting paid more and stuff like that. But then there's only so many people you can serve doing that. And that was a really ongoing frustration for me. I wanted to help more people because I knew the answers, right? And I kept giving them away for free, which is, that's great, but not really very sustainable. So I needed to make this transition, and I finally plugged up the courage to make the transition. That was about 1 year ago from where we are now. And to get from where I was then, which was solo entrepreneur with no team around me, I was doing purely consultancy work. To get from there 1 year ago to having this membership that's been out there for 3 months has been a really long investment of time and passion and energy. So the process really was about putting in place the positioning, so to get the authority to get in front of everyone and build the audience enough to do that, then to decide the framework to put it in, that took a lot of time. And I'm really glad now, I'm so glad that we took the time to think
Time well
properly
spent.
about,
Yeah.
right, yeah, is this a set of courses, is it masterclasses, is it workshops? How do we make it so that ActiveCampaign becomes a thing that you can step into and learn to meet the needs of your business quickly? That's probably where I spent the most time. So then once I'd finalized all of that, that was in about June of this year, which when I say that, it seems like such a short time ago. It literally wasn't until June that I committed to, this is a membership. That question is now off the table. This is going to be a membership. Let's get some beta students in and start the launch machine going. So then I took a lot of advice on how to launch something, because I've never done it before. I can do the mechanics standing on my head. I've done it lots of times for lots of people, but actually doing it yourself is a whole different ball game, right? Because you have to step into those areas of promoting what you're doing and owning it, and confidence, and all of the wheels that need to turn to make that happen, and getting a team around you to make it possible to launch at that scale. Wow. So the next 6 months was, in fact, it's less than 6 months, isn't it? maybe 4 months of head down, pure work, daily grind, getting everything ready to launch. And we went with a live webinar launch funnel, which was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
That's awesome. So you mentioned launching and then going, you're glad you don't have to do that again. So is your plan to just kind of be like evergreen from here?
Yes.
Yeah, like just take that launch pressure off. And I mean, every business has to launch at least once, but
I'm like, I genuinely, I'm really glad that I did it, because it gave me a whole different insight into what it is like when you're launching. And you know, I'm saying this from the lens of someone who's very technically accomplished in terms of making that process as easy as possible. You know, I know how to work a website and a webinar tech and integrate it all to ActiveCampaign and automate all my funnels and set goals and purchase tech and all of this. But my goodness, there are a lot of moving parts in there.
Yeah.
And it was enlightening to me that even as someone who is so accomplished on the tech, it's so hard to do that. You have to bring a lot of yourself to the table.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're listening to this and you're using ActiveCampaign or thinking about using that, I would definitely recommend going to slickbusiness.co and check out ActiveCampaign Academy by Kay. And it took you 5 years to do all this, but you're like a kind of a technology nerd like me. So I can only imagine like figuring out ActiveCampaign if you're not necessarily tech inclined. Gosh, you need somebody to help you just fast track that learning curve, which is exactly what you do, which is amazing.
Exactly that. Yeah. And that's one of my chief pleasures in terms of now being present with my launch batch of members. We have 100+ members in there. And honestly, I am so happy, because finally we are in a place where we can get in a room twice a week and talk about what they need right there, right then. And constantly be building a bank of resources, so that as well as having a conversation and showing something with a screen share, or having a conversation about strategy or how to think about it, how to put it together, we've got a resource then or a course that says this is exactly how to use this specific feature. So this week I've put together some training on deals and pipelines, which is just so desperately needed by people who work with ActiveCampaign. And we've been talking about it a lot, but now being able to combine those conversations and quick posts in the community. You know, sometimes someone only needs, it takes me 10 seconds to reply to a post to say, oh, you need such and such a feature. Here's the resource. And off they go. Fixed, moving.
Efficient.
Phew.
Yeah.
Oh, the relief, because everyone's path, I do believe that everyone's path through ActiveCampaign learning is different. I really believe that. And it comes from two places. Every business is different. Your business structure is different. Your tech stack is different. The people you have are different, but also you as an individual, whether you're a team member or the business owner, your state of play in terms of working with tech and automation and strategy as well. All of those things need to be taken into consideration when you come up with a plan to do something, to automate something. Because if you overreach, if you try and do something too complicated, that is either not needed or you don't have the time for, or the budget or the tech skills, it's going to crash. You can see it coming a mile off. Well, I can see it coming a mile off now, right? Because I've done it so many times. And I just love being present with people to steer them safely through that, and fast.
I
What a
love the
kick.
phrase condense decades into days. Like you can take like something that you can really save somebody a lot of time and help them create incredible value, while it may that advice or that training may create a quick fix. That's like could be
Mm,
a decade of knowledge and wisdom that
yeah.
focuses that decision, which is awesome.
Wow, I completely agree with that. And I think ActiveCampaign is one of those tools where the more time you spend with it and the more you go deep with it, the more intimately you get to know it. And I recognize that I'm a weirdo on this front. I have gone deep into ActiveCampaign, right? And inside my head, it's like the Matrix. I can see the path to
Yeah,
anything. But that it wasn't like that to start off with. That's taken me 5 years of obsessive thinking about ActiveCampaign to get here. But what I really love is being able to deliver that to my members right when they need it, so they can just crack on with running their incredible business.
that's
That's
awesome.
that's a thrill, right? That's
You
the
meant
teacher thrill.
absolutely. And you mentioned like 100 or so members on the launch. I'm sure as an expert, you have this like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I wonder if anybody's going to buy this thing. Who am I to teach this? Blah, blah, blah. Once you got into your launch, what other kind of signals started happening in the launch that were like, I think we're going to make it. I think it's going to be okay. I think I'm going to be okay.
Well, that is such a nice question to ask, because it's so human, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
when you put yourself on the line. And I think that's one of the things that I personally found really hard to do, because I didn't set out to be a business owner. I didn't want to do a launch, but I was gonna anyway. So I was really pushing my personal confidence boundaries very hard at that point. So one of the moments that was really significant, I'm going to well up a bit talking about it, was when, so I did a series of 3 live webinars over 3 days at different times of day in the UK, so that we could be live and present with the different time zones across the world. And when I did the first live webinar, I think it was my first time ever doing a solo webinar. It was an hour long. I had prepped and prepped and prepped, as you can imagine. It was beautifully structured. I knew that it was all the things I wanted to say. The adrenaline was going crazy in me. It was really an extraordinary experience, and I
It's
liken
like
it
a
now
moment,
to,
like, yeah,
yeah, yeah. It, for me, it felt like getting married,
yeah.
or getting. I tell you, the one I used most was getting ready to go into childbirth.
Okay.
That's how it felt to me. You know it's coming, it's imminent, it's gonna happen. Whether you like it or not, you are doing this, and you got to get through it live, right there, right now. So yeah, so the internal me is going completely crazy. Anyway, so I managed to get through this webinar, and I missed a huge chunk of it, right?
What do you mean you missed it?
I
Oh, you
missed,
for
I skipped. I
oh,
skipped a
okay.
big chunk of my planned webinar, and then I had to go back to it. I was like, "Oh my god, I've missed a bit," so I had to go
Yeah.
back. This is on the first run. The
Yeah.
second run was better. We recorded that one, and it's better. Um, but yeah, the first run. So it was, it was live. It was my first ever live launch webinar. And I was just so pumped on adrenaline that various things went wrong. But also there was this crazy excitement going on. It had a huge turn up rate. I had so many more people who had registered for this webinar than I was expecting. So it was enormously exciting. The chat's going crazy. We ran a prize draw and gave away a consult call with me. And it was all, spinny wheel and people getting excited. Whoop, whoop. So that was amazing. And then I got off the call, and that moment
Collapse.
where you've just done something, it's like coming off stage at a gig
Yeah.
and you feel like you're going to faint, right? I got off the call like that, and I looked over there where my Slack channel is, where I get my notifications, and I could see that we'd sold 25 memberships before we even closed the webinar.
On one webinar. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that moment was that first moment of, okay,
I'm gonna make it.
I think we might be okay. I think we
Yeah.
might be okay. But it has this air of unreality about it still at that point. And I think it didn't really sink in until we went past 50 sales the next day, and quite a substantial number of them were annual. They came straight out the gates into the advanced annual subscription. And that felt like a real validation of, yes, this is what we want, and we trust you.
That's
That felt
awesome.
really nice. Yeah, that felt lovely.
Do you have that webinar like video as part of your Evergreen sales process, or how did you
Not yet.
okay.
It's not done yet, but yeah, that's
Right.
very much on the cards for January, is to make sure that that webinar is available as part of a funnel. So right now, because this is a very new membership, I mean, we're only
Yeah.
on month 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to get all of your systems in place. You know, I'm having to learn how to run a membership. And again, I've done it so many times in terms of the back end tech for people, but actually being the leader of the ship involves a whole new layer of decision making, team management, systems, and just connecting. And for me, I always prioritize connecting with my members. That is the most important thing. I will always put that first. So right now I've been very focused on getting that membership really settled in. And then next year is all about amplification.
Right.
And then that webinar is coming out again, the recording.
That is so cool. Could you kind of at a high level let everybody listening or watching know what the structure of that webinar is? Like,
Ooh,
kind of like, or even just
yeah.
some tips, like what kind of sections or components to create the hour experience?
Yeah, I'm just going back to how we put it together. So I had a lot of amazing coaching, which I just couldn't have done this without, which was from Melissa Love.
That's awesome.
I have to name check her, because there's no way that webinar would have been so effective and well put together without her input. So the structure that I used came from Melissa, and it involved the introduction, the reassurance that you're in the right place. I'm going to help you with ActiveCampaign. We talked about pain points. Yeah. So I know that you are feeling this, and this right now. And here's what we're going to do. Oh, and we did a little potted history of me very quickly. Like, here's how I got to where I am, because we recognized, well, Melissa knew that there would be people at that webinar who had never been in my audience before, which there were. And I would never have thought of that. Right. So we did a little potted history of Kay and how I got to where I was.
Why you can trust me, and like.
Right. So it's all that establishing trust, telling them they're in the right place. I wouldn't have done any of that. I'd have been straight into the crazy teaching. What do I know about a webinar, right? So you ask someone who does know. Melissa Love knows this stuff. She tutored me. So then we spent a while picking out 4 themes, 4 learning points to use in the webinar. And we trailered them from about 6 weeks before the invitations even went out to the webinar. So we were laying the trail of cookie crumbs ready for this, and we ended up calling it Easy Active Campaign. It's an acronym, EASY, Active Campaign, and they stood for environment, which is the tech and tools that you have to play with, because you need to understand, you know, what have we got to work with here and what features have we got. Then A was for activity, which is what you do with the tech and the toys that you have to play with. So you're going to build automations, you are going to think about processes and automate things. Then we talked about strategy. That was the S for strategy. Why it's important to know what you're trying to do, make a plan, and write the plan down and refine it, so and know what your outcomes are, your desirable outcomes. And then why, which was my favorite one. Why was for you, the human at the heart of your business. So we had these 4, I think we called them pillars. Melissa talks about them as pillars of content. And what that enabled us to do was to take this sort of quite squidgy thing, which is, I want to help you get better at ActiveCampaign, and frame it up into something that was comprehensible, memorable, and deliverable in 4 pillared segments in a webinar.
So even if somebody didn't buy from you, the webinar would have been of value to them.
Definitely. Yeah. Because it's a way of thinking about ActiveCampaign. It's a way of thinking, and in fact, it's a way of thinking about any process or aim in your business. Make it easy, right? You need to know what's your environment, what activity you need to carry out. Strategy actually has to come first, but we couldn't come up with an acronym that had the S at the beginning. So you know,
make it easy.
We had to make it easy. So the S is in 3rd place. And then remembering that it's you, that it's the heart of the business, and that you need to get your skills, or your team need to build those skills. And ideally, you're going to have an expert and a teacher that you trust to help you do that more quickly, because you don't want to be on your own struggling and having to reinvent the wheel. So yeah, it was kind of like, it ended up being a bit of a universal truth thing, but all with rock solid ActiveCampaign implementation examples. And then the next thing we did, which is the segment that I forgot to do on the first run and had to go back to, was run through a real use case scenario and talk about how that strategy, the easy framework, would apply in that scenario. And the scenario was a red carpet VIP inquiry. So somebody, makes an inquiry to your website. What are you going to do? What's your process? And we did a real example. And then
So
I
just
pitched.
yeah, see, most people get scared because they think that all they got to do is pitch, but that was just the little last part of the very end of all that, right?
Yeah, that's like almost the afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Melissa Love. I just want to highlight she's been on this podcast a couple times. She's a great example of somebody who built a membership site with Lifter LMS as well. So go check her out. And one of the really cool things is, you talked earlier about building community and stuff like that. The community, sometimes it takes a village to raise a child. And when you and Melissa, I've watched you both help each other with your unique skill sets. So there's like you guys know each other, and just that you amplify, you fill in the others. You're better together, right? And then you both were able to launch your own products out of it. It's really a beautiful thing, leveraging each other's
Oh,
strengths. It's pretty cool.
yeah. We were chatting the other day, and we had a little bit of a moment of like, oh, we are so business married, and I love being business married to Melissa, because you're right, it's like it's a sort of a symbiotic relationship in a really good way for our businesses, very complementary skill sets. But when I started out, I had nothing. Melissa was the one who brought me into all this, and it feels like such a privilege to have grown in skill and experience and knowledge to be in a position where to be a business married to Melissa. That feels great, really nice.
That is cool. That is cool. I wanted to talk about another kind of like packaging thing. A lot of people get hung up on like packages and pricing, and I think what you have is like there's kind of two layers. There's like a version of the Academy that has a lot of stuff, and then there's another version that has everything, or more of the stuff. And then you have like a monthly or an annual payment option.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's kind of to me, it's a really clean thing. Like, okay, I can come in at this level, or I can get everything. And do I want to pay monthly or save a little bit and really commit and do annual? Can you tell
Yeah.
us anything you learned around packaging and getting that figured out, or
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
and
that
what
again,
does the
that
market actually do? Like you mentioned, some people went annual and stuff like that. Like, how did it kind of shake out in terms of are you glad you have it structured this way, or you learned something?
yeah, I don't think there's anything that I would change at this point. I need to watch it, but it's probably too early to tell at this point of how will that play out in the longer term, because in that launch, I think for context, it's important to bear in mind that some of the people on that very first webinar who jumped straight in and went to annual have been waiting a really long time for me to get
So you had
something
the
out.
relationship, like the
Yeah,
trust. Yeah.
we've been working that trust, and I have given a lot of valuable content. There was a huge amount of trust and positioning and authority invested in those relationships. And
Mhm.
so my hunch is that those guys were the ones who went straight in on advanced annual. But there were some surprises in there for me too as well. So names that weren't on my radar who went straight to annual as well. So there's always stuff going on under the surface that we don't know about, right? So my intention with the pricing structure was that it should be simple enough to be comprehensible, and that it would be appropriate for a variety of businesses to be able to access the training that they needed when they needed it. So being able to come in for just 1 month and then leave if that was what you needed to do, that was important to me. Because if you're a business on a low budget, you can do a lot in a month in
Yeah.
the Academy with ActiveCampaign. You can have a really significant improvement in 1 month on the essential level. But equally, I wanted the annual because, that makes sense for us as membership owners. And some people are definitely in for the long haul. I say I have about probably 20% of my members right now are ActiveCampaign service providers. So they're people who are making this
Implementers.
they're implementers, and they're in for the long haul. So they're the ones who are getting the annual advanced plan. So the other factor for me was around the fact that ActiveCampaign is not one product itself. This marketing automation platform has different levels of plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're an ActiveCampaign user, you may be on the light plan, or the plus, or the pro, or the enterprise. And
I think I'm on the
You get,
pro.
I can tell you, you're on the pro.
Okay.
We talked about this before. You're on the pro. So there are a whole ton of features that kick in at plus level that are not available on light plans. Now, to
Oh,
me,
that's
it would seem
interesting. Yeah.
it would seem grossly unfair to me to effectively charge people for training on stuff that they don't even have access to.
Interesting. That's
I
cool.
think that would be
Yeah.
mean, right?
And
And
it's
also
the
it would
overwhelming. It could create some overwhelm.
overwhelm.
Right.
Yes, that was going to be my next point. The
Yeah.
overwhelm.
Yeah.
People who are on the light plan, and the light plan, by the way, is ridiculously capable on ActiveCampaign. It is such great value, such great value. You don't necessarily need to be on the plus or the pro or the enterprise. Light, I think I was on the light plan up until about 8 months ago in my own business. Okay, you can do a ton on there. Anyway, so the people who are on the light plan particularly, or who are on higher level plans but are not ready yet to be dealing with the complicated stuff, or just they're not using it, or they don't have the time yet, any of those reasons, I wanted them to have a more accessible price point. That was really, it felt important to me. So we created it with 2 levels, essential and advanced. And essential level is if you are on the light plan, and that's all you need, great, you want to be on the essential level of my ActiveCampaign Academy, because you just don't need to know about the content that's in the advanced. You just don't need that. So great, hooray. But then if you are on the plus, pro, or enterprise plan, in order to get the content that relates to those features, which is deals and pipelines, accounts, deep data, e-commerce, Facebook audience integration, those topics are really important. Deals and pipelines particularly is incredibly powerful. And I want to put really high quality content out for this. And so I need to charge more for that membership, and you're going to need more access to me, right? So on the advanced level, they get double access to our office hours calls as well. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's great because it means you can be in a call with me every week to keep you moving.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I saw your pricing and stuff, I'm like, that is a really good structure. One just quick question there, maybe without going into the specific price point in case you change it. How did you think about like how to price the month or the year? Like, or did you like, was there any kind of like calculation like, oh, well, they're paying this much for ActiveCampaign, maybe this would be like tied into that, or how did you kind of come
Oh,
up
that
with
is
that?
such a good question. I found that bit really tough,
Yeah.
really tough. Partly because of self-confidence,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a business to business membership pricing is different to a business to consumer pricing,
Hmm.
and I found it quite hard. It was quite an isolated bit that to pin down the pricing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's something
yeah,
you
I
can
think I
figure out
probably
over time.
did.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I think we did look at, how much are they paying for ActiveCampaign.
Hmm.
I think we did factor that in, but we thought more about how much is this going to benefit them? What is this worth
Yeah.
to a business? And in that sense, it's really underpriced right now, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But that's what you do when you launch, and when you're in a fledgling membership, and it's a new thing, right? No one else has done this in
Right.
this way. No, this doesn't exist anywhere else. And so you're asking people to take a leap of faith with you and come on
Mhm.
in. And so we were somewhere in between all of those conflicting influences on pricing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. It's
How
tough.
about how about this concept of the MVP or minimum viable product? You said it took 9 months to kind of launch this thing. How did you come to a point where you decided like, okay, this is enough, like in the box of what they're getting on day one, the first time the doors open? Because what I see is a lot of people get stuck in what I call the course creator cave, and like the years start ticking by and they haven't launched. Like, how did you kind of have that sense of like, or planning or sense when you got there that this is enough to launch with?
I got pinned down basically by Melissa, who made me put in a launch date.
That's awesome.
That's the only way. That was the only way we could get me out of the course creator cave. And I still want to get back in there. I still want to, I would happily spend all my day, every day, creating course content for my existing members
Mhm.
and stop doing any marketing or sales activity, because
Yeah.
where I'm happiest is in the course creation, right? So you're absolutely right. It's a total trap. And the only way that I got past that was to be pinioned by the people around me who made me commit to a date and put a schedule in and stick to it. And that meant that I had to sacrifice not all of them. I had to sacrifice a lot of stuff that in my heart and mind I thought I had to be in place. I thought we had to have XYZ and all the other letters of the alphabet. They all had to be in there before I could possibly launch, because otherwise it
Right.
wouldn't be fair. Ooh, but having a launch date and a launch program and having to get this webinar out and my team rolling and keeping it all rolling, that was the only thing that kept me on track with that.
Did you set that launch date at the beginning of the 9 months or after you were in there and Melissa saw that maybe you're never going to launch unless we pick a date? Like where
Well,
was
you
that?
remember I said it was in June that I
Yeah,
said I'm going to do a membership. We set the launch date that day.
that's great. So kind of at the beginning of the commitment process.
Yeah. But the thing is, you've got to bear in mind, Melissa knows me really well and she's had to do an intervention on me before. So she knows. We've learned what levers are necessary
Yeah.
to help me, to support me as a human and as a person, to get past, to stop getting in my own way.
Yeah. That's great advice. And I love how it's just tied to that like human 9 month gestation. It just feels like you can just run the metaphor all the way through and then you have a
Yeah.
baby that you need to nurture and grow on the other side.
Totally, that's so true. Like I had my my getting ready to give birth music. I had my track that I played in my headset before I went on the webinars. I had a particular track that I played and really loud out on the back deck. Getting pumped for it. It was amazing.
I know you're still learning or probably optimizing, but you're such a systems person, which is something I love about you. Now that it's launched, like what's the monthly rhythm for like continuing to evolve the membership? Like for example, I know you have the office hours events on the calendar. Do you have like course creation time blocks in your schedule, or like what's the rhythm just to both keep it moving forward without putting undue expectations on yourself of what you can add in a month?
Well, that's a great question as well. So this is something I'm still evolving. I
Yeah.
think definitely, because when you start a membership, it's quite heavy need on the systems side of things. So I had planned today to do some course recording, but I had some system stuff that needed to be done today,
Mm-hmm.
because if I didn't do it today, it was going to cost me more time overall. And so there's a bit of a juggling act going on there. My aim is to have one full day per week on content creation for my members,
That's great.
half a day a week on content creation that's public and free. So that's my weekly topics that go into the free Facebook group, which are excellent, and turning those into blogs and amplifying those messages. I think I've got half a day on email marketing, which again, right now has not made it back to the top of my pile. That keeps having to get overridden because we need to get our onboarding properly in place, because otherwise our new members coming in aren't getting a great experience probably right now, but that's my next priority. So we're still juggling a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't a very helpful answer.
Oh, it's good. I mean, I love that idea. There was helpful. Like, okay, you have one day a week that it's all, adding value to member. Even just that
Yeah,
one, I have that in my schedule on Wednesdays. I call it a deep work day. Like my highest
yeah,
priority happens that day.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I,
Because to me, if I'm not serving my existing members, and if I'm not getting into course and resource frameworks, the stuff that's in my head, then every single time someone needs to know that, I have to personally deliver that knowledge to them.
right.
And that's
So
not good for
that
me.
creates motivation to
Yeah, that's my
productize that knowledge.
motivation, is
Yeah.
that this and my intent. It was weird after I did the launch, because the launch was so all consuming. It kind of felt like falling off a cliff when I'd got to it, and I was like, oh, now I've got 125 members. Ha ha.
Yeah.
Now what? So I'm still working on my weekly routines to make sure that they are getting served well. I'm not going to burn out, but we do need to keep extracting. It's like mining the brain. That has to keep coming out, because otherwise it's a catch-22, where every time someone needs to know something, the only place they can get it is by asking me personally in that moment. And that is not sustainable. And it's also not the best way for them to learn, because my teaching is generally better in terms of structured teaching. It's going to be better if I have planned it, thought about it. If I have an example, a screenshot, I can do a video about it. We can have annotations, checklists, all of that. I want them to have that as well.
That's awesome. I love how in your expert journey, your clients, your customers, your colleagues, they literally like pull the product out of you. They like force you. It's awesome. It's not like you're trying to
Yeah.
push something on people. You're trying to help
Yeah.
more people solve the same problems at scale without
Yes.
you exploding with one-on-one consulting for everything.
Exactly that. And honestly, it feels like a relief every time I'm able to make the time to get something into a course. Oh, and we've developed more of a workflow now for course creation. So I have someone else who's doing the video edits and someone else who creates the lesson posts and that sort of stuff. So our workflows are constantly evolving to make that process easier for all of us. We document everything as we go. And that means it's all available immediately in our community. It's really easy for everyone to find anything that's in our whole resource base.
That's awesome.
And it's also really member driven as well. One of the things that we learned during the beta phase, which was really important. So from June, I invited in some beta students. I think we had 13 beta students who came into this fledgling membership that pretty much had nothing in it at that point. And the office hours calls started right from the beginning. And that was where we took the cues for, okay, this keeps coming up. So that's going to come to the top of the list for making a course about this thing, because everybody needs this. So up that comes on the list. And that's been fascinating for me, because I think you're absolutely right. You know, I know how I think about ActiveCampaign as a consultant, but it's not the same as what a business person coming in and needing ActiveCampaign training to help them move forward more quickly. What do they need first? And so this membership is very driven by what keeps coming up in office hours. What do we as a community need next?
That's awesome. Well, let's get into the tech a little bit. You're a technologist and you're awesome with systems and whatnot. What do you see as the essential tools in your membership site, training-based membership site business? Like, what's the tech stack? Obviously, you got ActiveCampaign.
Yeah,
What else?
I got ActiveCampaign. I got Lifter LMS. That's the easy ones, right? So I'm on Divi in WordPress. So Divi's my page builder. And again, Melissa Love features in that choice because she is incredible at designing beautiful stuff using Divi and WordPress and Lifter. And I use WooCommerce for my sales cart. And the reason I do that is because it integrates beautifully with ActiveCampaign. So you will not find me using Thrivecart or any other external cart, because I want that deep data integration with ActiveCampaign. It removes a ton of disconnect and problem and saves hours of work. WP Fusion, my favorite plugin of all, really. It's the one ring that joins them all. It just connects. Every WordPress user is connected to an ActiveCampaign contact, and WP Fusion is what sends the data fluently back and forth between my sales domain and my education domain. They're getting information to and from both from ActiveCampaign.
So you have separate sites for the e-commerce and the...
I do, yeah. So my main site has the blog and the static pages. Any landing pages and stuff like that is on the main site, and the WooCommerce checkout stuff, all of that is on the main site. And then the education site is purely for education. So the courses and resources and a bit of member support, that's it.
That's awesome. What do you love most about Lifter LMS, or how does it help you? Like, what are the benefits there, or how do you use it?
Oh, it's just so fluent and easy to use. I really enjoy working with it. I enjoy how easy it is to create any lesson style that you want, because we're using the Gutenberg block builder in there. We can create anything that you want and then frame it up inside a Divi layout, right? So you've got the layout control. You've also got all the flexibility of the Gutenberg blocks. And that whole course building structure where you've got lessons inside a course, and it's really fluent as a creator to go in and, you know, shuffle the order of stuff or rename something. That's all really easy and fluent to do. But the thing that's benefited me most at this point, launching into this membership, is being able to use the memberships layer over the top of the courses. That has been absolutely pivotal. Without that, I would have been really stuck, because what it means is that now when I create a new course, which I'm doing fairly frequently, is adding new material into this membership, it's really easy to just auto enroll all of the existing members. And yeah, just flexible, fluent, looks great. Users love it. I have nothing not to like about this. And do you know what I'm really excited about with Lifter LMS, right? Is when this membership reaches a point of maturity where I can start to look at the other things, quizzes and certificates and gamification and all of those extras. I have never been in a position where in my business we've wanted or needed to use any of that. I'm really excited. I'm going to be getting me that Lifter LMS Universe bundle.
That's awesome.
Yes, finally.
What a question I get a lot, which maybe you can help me with, is like, why WordPress versus like a membership tool like Kajabi or something like that? I know you're you're very skilled technically, but like, just like in your course, you're helping implementers like use a complex tool like ActiveCampaign. Like, why WordPress over hosted SaaS or hosted software solutions for memberships and courses and stuff?
I think for me, that one it's twofold. It's about building on someone else's turf and being tied into that platform. So without speaking about any of the other platforms in particular, often they actually retain ownership of any video that you upload to that site. They make it very hard for you to get it back out again or to protect it. So if something goes wrong in that relationship, you have no ownership of your assets and no protections. And that always really bothers me. But from a technician's point of view, it's always about the integration. Every single time I worked with clients who had their learning content on a third-party SaaS platform, we just had such a big headache trying to get any sort of student tracking or engagement monitoring, or even just getting them enrolled on something. Everything was so hard, so difficult to do. It puts in all these technical barriers, and often those technical barriers are complete roadblocks. So you'll find that the platform, these third-party learning platforms, as brilliant as they are, and they really do have their place for someone who's earlier in their course builder or membership journey, they have their place. But there comes a point where you've got to get out of there because barriers are up, the walls are closing in, and these platforms will not let you get your data out of them. So sometimes, for example, they'll let you export a CSV, but there's no way of having a dynamic webhook or feed to something to update it with, have they logged in or have they visited this course? To me, that information is absolutely critical. I need ActiveCampaign to know when they've done their first login, when they've finished their first course, because ActiveCampaign is the partner to your education site. And if they're not talking to each other, that's not going to help you in your business, right? You've just tied your hands together behind your back.
That's awesome. Do you remember why you first started, or when the scenario around why or when you started and you selected Lifter LMS for your learning management system? Is it because Melissa?
You know what I'm going to say? It's Melissa.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would have gone away from it years ago if I thought there was a better option. I'm not hesitant to move away from stuff. I don't promise I don't do stuff just because Melissa does it. I like to think she's following me now. I'm just saying.
You help each other. You help each other.
We help each other. So I'll give you a good example. And I know we were talking about the tech stack earlier, and I forgot to mention one that I'm very enamored of right now, which is that my community, for my members, my paying member community, we've just moved to Circle as our community platform.
I'm seeing a lot of people use that in conjunction with WordPress. Do you like it? Are you happy?
I am loving it. Okay. Yeah. So happy. But more important than that, the members are getting a better experience because, so previously we were using the closed Facebook group, but we all know there are issues and problems with that. But the major problem, actually, there were two sides to it for me as the business owner that were really problematic. One of which is the integration side. There's no real way of automating people coming in and out of a private Facebook group, and that is a massive time drain. Yeah. And it leads to errors and a poor experience for everyone, basically. So I wanted something that I could automate, and Circle answers that need. But I also wanted something that had the feel of being sociable, but also had sufficient structural capacity to become a resource in itself. So what I'm loving with Circle is that we've been able to create a library area for our members. And we've been able to separate out our essential level stuff from our advanced level stuff. So we're reducing overwhelm. We're making all of our content more accessible and keeping all of that community feel. Yeah, I'm thrilled with it. Actually, one of the features that I love most about it, which I didn't even know when I signed up for it, is that you can embed it right there in your learning platform on WordPress.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It puts a little bubble down in the bottom corner, and all you have to do to get into the community is click on the little bubble. Up it comes, ask a question, have a quick browse, take a break, chat with your ActiveCampaign buddies, click away, squishes back down, carry on with your course. Wow.
That is cool. Wow, that's super cool.
Because that's what we're all looking for, right? From our communities. We want them to be meshed in with the experience of being in there and learning. And so when I saw that feature, that was it. I was all in then. I was like, yes, this is the one for me.
Well, I could keep going for hours with you, but we have to land this plane. I want to kind of end it with just whatever you have to say to somebody who's considering doing this. Like they've been consulting for a while, and they're kind of feeling that if I could just productize this, and maybe they set a 9-month launch date. That seemed to really help focus your efforts. And one mini question before you start: when you did launch, how many courses were inside the membership approximately?
I think it was 11.
11. And for you, a course is how many lessons?
It really varies.
Yeah.
Probably average 10 lessons.
And total time per course, like for the actual content on average?
Video consumption or time to do it?
Yeah, just like video for now.
Video, probably about an hour. So and of course, I have all this documented, right? I have an Airtable that stashes all this.
So you basically had 11 hours of training at the launch point, approximately. And a lot goes into making it. That's not 11 hours to create. I know there's a ton of time that goes in to create that. Well, what final words do you have for somebody? And we're going to encourage people to set a 9-month launch date.
9-month gestation period.
Yeah. What final words do you have for them, and any final thoughts about Lifter LMS to share?
Okay. I think probably the most important part of that gestation period for me was getting beta students in really early. Really
so they're early. In there when course 1 drops, or
course 2? They're in there before it even exists. So I put a call out for people to come on that journey with me. Mm-hmm. And they were paying right from the beginning, rock bottom, real low price. And the exchange was very clear that you get locked into that price for life, for as long as you stay subscribed. And in exchange for that, you're going to come on a journey with me over the next 3 months. So they knew the time scale coming into it. And we are going to get in and we're going to create this together from scratch. And I had a really great response to it. I think actually I invited people, and I picked a selection of people from across the range. So with my people, I've got a real big range of like total beginner to people who want to do this for a living. So we picked a range of people, and I learned so much from them. That's the key thing, was spending time with them for a good 2 months. And that was how the structure of the courses and the memberships became clear. This is taking a leap of faith, but bringing some of your people along with you. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Kay, thank you for being a shining and inspiring example. Inspiring? No, you're just getting started. An inspiring example of a course creator, somebody building a training-based membership site. Go check out slickbusiness.co. She has a free course called Accelerated ActiveCampaign. So if you're using ActiveCampaign and you want to kind of round out your understanding and really get a much better footing with it, go check that out, and go check out ActiveCampaign Academy. That's at slickbusiness.co. Okay, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure as always.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMS Cast. Did you enjoy that episode? Tell your friends and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I've got a gift for you over at LifterLMS.com/gift. Go to LifterLMS.com/gift. Keep learning, keep taking action, and I'll see you in the next episode.